All right, guys, here we are. Welcome to episode number 62 of the podcast. So for those of you that are listening with your listening ears on Spotify or iTunes, I'm also recording this for my YouTube channel. So I've got my video going. We'll see how this goes. I had some I almost said students, clients in the studio. They're like, when are you going to do video? Because we do cardio now while we listen to you, and it would be nice to actually like see you emote and stuff. So we're going to roll with this. We'll see how it goes, friends. Okay. Today's show is going to be all about, this sounds super braggadocious. It's going to be all about me, post-show updates. So if you've been following me for some time, I am transitioning from the IFBB Pro figure division to the wellness division. And it has piqued some curiosity naturally because I have a lot of people who are into the bodybuilding world. So they're asking lots of questions. I posted an Instagram Q&A question box. So I got a lot of questions that came through. So I'm going to talk through those. I'm going to give you guys some updates as far as kind of where I'm at, if you care. If you don't, that's okay too. But yeah, coming out of a show can be a little bit of a slippery slope for some. This was my 15th show of my life, 16th maybe. I don't know. I've lost count. So I've learned how to navigate this a lot better than I used to. It used to be an absolute shit show. Now, this prep, just to give you a quick summary recap, I had breast augmentation earlier in the year, which knocked me on my ass for 6 weeks out of training. Then I had a very interesting turn of events with a relationship that I was in that left me under the covers more than I'd like, in a little bit of a funk. And then I got COVID, ended up in the hospital in the middle, actually at the beginning of my prep. So I really did not have an ideal improvement season. And my prep was technically a 9-week prep. So I hired a new coach at around 9 weeks, and it felt like slow motion, but also fast forward at the same time, because I've never done a 9-week prep, let alone for a pro debut nonetheless. So, right now I'm about 8 weeks post show. And just to recap, I did the Legion Sports Fest, which is, it's a top 3 tier show. So the shows, the IFBB Pro shows are ranked by different tiers, and that is for the purpose of qualifying for Olympia points. So I did not realize that. I was just like, yeah, I want to do this show. It sounds like fun. And then I muted all of the figure competitors that I usually follow, because I just do that. I don't like to get into my own little bubble. I don't like to be kind of sidetracked or distracted by other people's preps and what they're doing and comparison trap and all that. Little did I know I was going to be on stage with an Olympian. So yeah, that happened. I got 5th place, which was fucking awesome. I did not anticipate I was going to place at all, especially when I got backstage and I saw what I was up against. So patting myself on the back for that one. That was awesome. But okay, so now I am 8 weeks post show. Right now, just to give you an idea of where I'm at, I know a lot of people like to know stats and things like that. So I'm 5'4 3/4, basically 5'5". I am 43 years old, so I'm a good old masters. And my weight right now has been ping-ponging between 149, 151. And I have slowly started to work my calories up. So I know some questions had came through about, post-show dieting and things like that. And we're going to talk about that because I have some thoughts on that, okay? I train, right now, my coach basically had to yank my chain a lot of it. And so I'm training 5 days a week because I will overdo it, and not like crazy, like in the gym for 3 hours overdo it, but I will drill my body down, and every day becomes a day of like, I need to be hitting like PRs and crushing my workouts. And so my recovery's been a little bit trash. My body was looking a little tired. So we scaled my training back. And I'm also going to talk about that in a second too when I cover some of these questions. My cardio is still 6 days a week at 25 minutes, which I'm not mad about because it has kept me kind of in the routine of things. Because I find that a lot of times post-show, speaking for myself and a lot of my clients, is that, you know, they're like all about it in prep, and they're competing and they're getting ready to compete, and they're doing their cardio, they're first thing in the morning, and they have like a streamlined schedule. And I work really well with schedules and also just like time blocking and things like that. So if I know it is existing on my schedule, I'll knock it out and it gets done, and I honestly feel a lot better. So it's been keeping my recovery on point. Honestly, like my food is up at a decent level, so it's keeping me digesting well and all those things, because that also becomes an issue when you start reverse dieting. Also, for those of you on the YouTubes, look at my nails. They're amazing. So if you're not on YouTube, you need to go find me on YouTube now, because it's living the goddess life over on YouTube, or just plug in Diane Flores. You'll probably find me there. Anyways, I'm admiring my nails in the video that is facing me. But cardio has been really good. I've been splitting it up. So I lived on the stairs all of prep, and then the first probably 6 weeks post show, the last 2 weeks, I have been splitting it up between half stair mill, half treadmill, just to give my body a little bit of a break, a little bit of a different stimulus, and keeping my heart rate relative to what my goals are with my coach. I was hitting about 15,000 steps per day during prep. I had worked up to about 15K, and then I've gradually tapered that down. So now I'm at 10K per day. And honestly, with the weather here, it's been a little harder to hit that. So I will get on my treadmill and take my laptop, and I've been doing my client check-ins while I'm getting steps in. So that's been one way to accumulate some stuff. So I think that pretty much covers in a roundabout way a lot of the basics as far as where I'm at right now. The first question that came through was, since you're a figure pro, do you compete in pro wellness, or do you have to start at the bottom? And that's actually a really good question. Once you become a pro, once you become an IFBB pro, you can compete in any of the divisions, and you are not allowed to start over. So I could not go back and be like, yo, I want to like start back up at the ranks at the bottom at NPC, and then, you know, work my way back up to being an IFBB pro in the wellness division. So no, it's like kind of good, but kind of not. Makes me want to like poop my pants a little bit, because I've seen these wellness girls, right? Much like I've seen the figure girls that I was going up against. But I know I have my work cut out for me. I'm not in denial about that. So yeah, I've definitely had a little bit of a, oh, I'm doing this. This is like a real thing, and I already said it out loud. So I'm all in. Okay. So yes, you transition over to pro wellness, and you don't go backwards. You don't go back down as an amateur. You have to then do that. Okay, the next question I got, and I'm riffing off these. I have some notes, but for the most part, I'm just like riffing. Okay, so let's just see what the hell comes out of my mouth. All right, is it difficult to move to wellness? I'm having a hard time. So this question's a good one because it's kind of like broad, right? Like, is it difficult for who, right? It's very hard to say, just depending on who the person is and all the things. I'm just going to speak for myself, because I know myself, and I obviously have had clients come to me, and we've made that transition as well. One of my clients, Kate, who just competed, she literally was like born for wellness, but we had kind of toyed with her competing in figure as well, because she's very built up top. So again, a very broad question. So you have to think about what that division looks like. Okay. And I actually have pulled up the NPCnewsonline.com is a great resource if you're like very inquisitive about these things. Like, you have questions about all things related to competition. It's just a really good hub for that. But when you pull up their, wellness division rules, etc., it's like, what is the wellness division? And NPC IFBB defines it as a division for females with athletic physiques that showcase more body mass in the hips, glutes, and thighs. The upper body is developed, but not to the same degree as the lower body. So if you've been around sort of the competition scene, if you will, with wellness and, really getting and diving into that, you will notice like these wellness girls have a stacked lower body and their upper bodies are not symmetrical to their lower bodies. Whereas all the other divisions, they are looking for symmetry across the board in upper body and lower body. Specifically, right? Like I've been drilling my body down for a very long time, over 10 years, to mold to the figure division. And since I've done that, I've obviously put on a lot of upper body mass. So I'm essentially, genetically speaking, myself personally, I'm kind of built like an upside down triangle in the sense of trying to, give you an idea of like my body proportions. And now I'm trying to turn that triangle the other way, right? I want to be bigger lower body and then smaller upper body. So, a lot of it has to do with genetics, the length of my clavicle. If you're watching YouTube, you can see the length of my clavicle is pretty wide. It ends right here, which you can't see, I'm sorry, on the podcast, but I have a wide clavicle. So it's, so genetically speaking, I, am built to be more suited to have that X frame. My lower body is a little more narrow, but never doubt those who work twice as hard as those that are genetically gifted. So what that means is I have competed in the bikini division, and if you look at me now, look at her now, I'm not a bikini athlete body, right? I'm not suited for that. So while I started as a figure athlete in 2010, 2011 is when I started like training to compete in figure. I did do several shows, and then I took a little bit of a break, hired a new coach who was a well-known, and I then morphed my body to the bikini division. And how I did that was I had to atrophy a lot of my upper body muscle. So my coach scaled back all of my upper body training to almost nothing. And I did not work on my arms at all. And I literally focused on lower body training. I also had to change up my diet quite significantly. I was eating a lot less food than I was as a figure athlete because I was obviously atrophying my muscle. I was cutting back my muscle. So I was eating less food. I was running. Running. I'm so sorry for those of you that like to run. It's just not my forte. I can distinctly remember waking up because at that time when I was training for the bikini division, I was momming 3 children who were into sports and in school and all had activities and things, all 3 of them, including my youngest at the time. And so the only time I could fit in my workouts a lot of times were at 4 in the morning and 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I would get up and I would run outside because at the time I didn't have a treadmill. And so, the kids were asleep. My husband was home at the time when I was married, blah, blah, blah. So I was running for me, on average, 12 to 14-ish miles a week. Which is a lot for someone who doesn't run. For those of you that are runners, you're like, I do that in one day. That is not me, folks. Okay. So transitioning to wellness, for myself personally, there's some other things as far as the wellness division goes that I am trying to divert my focus to, right? So, if you're back on if you're on the NPC news website, they're like, okay, frequently asked questions about the wellness division. What is the level of conditioning? Conditioning is almost on par with bikini, but athletes will have slightly more muscle. Wellness athletes will want to see a little body fat with slight separation, but no striations. So striations are basically those, for those of you that are like, what is that? That's when you are so lean that you start to see the muscle fibers in your muscles when you're either flexed or standing there or whatever. That is a level of being too lean. And that's where a lot of coaches, just as a side note, a side rant, a lot of coaches, including myself in the very beginning, got things wrong, is that they think like, oh, leaner is better and getting my clients super shredded is better for the bikini division. And as a coach, watching now shows and seeing girls on stage and seeing athletes show up that are way too lean, and they have, you can see striations, and you can see, just like their skin is very thin, and they don't do well, and they get upset because they're like, I am the leanest one here. Well, that's not what they're looking for. You really need to know what they're looking for in the division, so you don't confuse yourself and think because you're the leanest or you have the most muscle and you're competing in bikini that you should do better than the other girls. That's not how it works. They have a distinct look that they're looking for, and it will actually work against you in your placing. So next one is frequently asked question is abs defined like figure or less defined like bikini? And their answer is, as it is currently in bikini, which again, you don't have to have necessarily a 6-pack to compete. I don't ever have a 6-pack. That is something I'm definitely working on a little bit more as far as core conditioning this year, because I have less things to do when I train now. Like, I'm not working out back twice a week. I'm not doing biceps and triceps a ton and all that fun stuff. So I'm focusing on more core work. But you should have a flat midsection, tiny waist and things like that, but you do not have to have, it's not a 6-pack competition. So, in fact, when I got my pro card in, last year in both divisions, 35 and over and 40 and over, and then I took the overall, there were girls on to my left and to my right that had much more defined abs than I did. So it wasn't a matter of you have necessarily have to have a 6-pack, okay? Okay, next is their shoulders. Do they need to be rounded and capped like figure in women's physique, or less pronounced like bikini? So the answer to this for wellness is slightly more developed than bikini and a little less than figure, but not as lean and with no striations, not like women's physique. So for my physique in particular, I tend to get really juicy delts and most figure competitors when I lean out. And if you're watching this YouTube video, you can even see like how much mass I have in my biceps. I'm going to have to like scale that training back quite a bit. So they do want to see some cap to your shoulders. So most of my wellness athletes are training shoulders twice a week to keep that nice fullness to their shoulders a little bit more than bikini, not quite as much as figure. So it's kind of like the Goldilocks spot. All right, then they're talking about how much definition for quads. Quads should display athletic appearance with slight separation but no striations, so not as lean and defined as figure in women's physique. So I'm actually really excited about that, because when I do get conditioned enough, I can pull some separation in my legs. I typically do not get lean enough, at least in my last handful of shows where I have striations in my quads or my legs. I will get pretty like shredded hamstrings, but that is kind of on par with wellness. So I just need to build size in the lower half. Glute development. Round, full glutes with slight separation between the hamstring and glute area, aka the tie-in, but no striations, as in place, same as like the bikini division. So glutes will appear bigger than current bikini competitors. They will not be as lean and defined as figure and women's physique. So you kind of see a trend here. They don't want you as lean and shredded as figure. They do want more size than bikini. So that is really, the parameters for wellness. like I mentioned earlier, you know, my back needs to come down. And again, I'm fighting genetics a bit, as well as my own years worth of training and adding on size to where I'm at now for figures. So I'm going to have to work twice as hard for some body parts, and also, you know, be mindful of those body parts that are already overdeveloped, so I don't continue to grow them and then not look the part. You know, I know for a lot of us, it is hard when you're trying to bring up certain body parts and you have really strong body parts in other divisions, because usually our strongest body parts are the ones we love to train. And I'm going to tell you, my back is usually my strongest body part when it comes to my competitions for figure. And it's because I love training back. I know the different, you know, muscle fibers. I like to, you know, I like to work different pulls. I like to really get in detail work for my back. And so, you know, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit of a bitch when it comes to leg day. So I definitely am having to shift my mindset, scale back my dogs, scale back my my upper body training, and really focus on making sure that I'm recovering well enough to be able to hit my lower body workouts pretty well. The other thing is dieting properly, making sure that I'm not putting on too much body fat, because like pound for pound, you really don't need to put on a ton of body fat post show to put on muscle. Now, that's a deeper conversation, which someone asked a question about, and I'm gonna, you know, elaborate a little bit more on that. But just making sure I lift with intensity, intention, making sure my reps are perfect reps before I try to ego lift, which is a problem that I typically have. And also when, you know, for this person in specific, saying I'm having a hard time transitioning, not only all these things that I've mentioned, but you also have to make sure that your lifting program is reflecting what they're looking for, what your body needs, based off of what the NPC or IFBB is looking for, and not what you enjoy training. Sometimes it's not going to be what you enjoy training. Okay. So, you know, that's a big piece of the puzzle. And I've already talked about, you know, transitioning from figure to bikini. Another question that came up was, actually a few people asked that, you know, what was the ultimate reason that you wanted to make the shift? And, you know, what was the hardest between the two? What's the hardest? And then another one was like, what do you know, what made you want to cross over? Ultimately, I train a lot of bikini and wellness competitors. I knew that I probably would not ever want to go back to bikini, only because my body, you know, I generally like to sit at around 150 pounds. And in order for me, and I carry a lot of muscle. And so in order for me to do bikini, I would have to probably drop about, 30 plus pounds. And I just can't imagine doing that. That does not sound like a good time to me. And I really, really like the aesthetic look of the wellness division, just as walking around in the off season. For me personally, and this isn't everybody in figure, for me, I just knew that, in the off season, I struggle with finding clothes that fit right on my upper body, right? And I also had breast augmentation done. So the thicker that my back gets, the wider that my back gets, the harder it is to find shirts that fit me. And honestly, like, I can't tell you how many shirts that I have busted the seams out, like right underneath the armpits. And they are like armpit coffins, and I'm over it. And again, because I am genetically kind of built like an upside down triangle already, and then my training then increases the width of that for the figure division, it just makes it harder and harder. So when I go to buy like normal people clothes, which I realize I don't wear very fucking often, but when I do, it's like I have to buy things that are really big to fit my shoulders, but then I look like is she pregnant? Like, what's going on? Is she trying to hide something? So that's part of the reason. Another reason is, I really I did the bikini division in 2013 and 2014, actually did really well. I surprised myself, trying to atrophy my figure body to a bikini body. And I took firsts and overalls and all that, selfish, braggadocious plug, I guess. But doing that, I did it primarily because the bikini division was still pretty new-ish. Like, it had been around for, I want to say 4 or 5 years at that point, but it was still pretty new. And I had a lot of girls that fit that mold coming in as first-time competitors. And I really wanted to know what it was like to go through that process and have some experience for myself. So that was another reason. And then the third reason is, in just pure transparency, I just, to the level that I knew that I would need to get to be competitive in the figure division as an IFBB pro, the level of, which somebody had asked this, and, and this is just kind of like one of those delicate topics, the level of gear, which is street slang for steroids or PEDs, physique enhancing drugs, that I would have to put my body through for that was just not worth it to me. And to each his own, but the amount of kind of beating up that I do of my body during training for figure, all the things, the supplementation, all of the things that I was currently doing, I just wasn't willing to really push that any further. And, someone asked, I want to know more about taking gear, the benefits, the risks, the body changes for women. I'm not going to dive too deeply into this. I know I touch upon it a lot throughout different podcasts and whatnot. I am not the expert in this department. I do have some knowledge. I do have, knowledge for myself personally, just putting it out there. And I also have knowledge from athletes that I've taken on and coached that are doing it. Not everybody on my team is. It's not something that I'm like, you're only going to be successful if you do this, because that is not the truth. But there are tons of benefits, risks. I'm sure if you've been around the bodybuilding world long enough, you've seen and heard a lot of deaths that have been happening as of late, because it's to be questioned as to a lot of the reasonings of these deaths and whatnot, but it could be largely due to some of these things. But benefits and risks, you can definitely, y'all hear that? That's one thirsty dog. They can definitely be a range of things, right? I can speak for myself personally. I'm not about to go down, so just for the record, folks, if you think that this isn't something that's very rampant in the bodybuilding world, you are a fool, okay? You have to think about what we're talking about here. We're talking about optimizing your physique to do things that are just not natural, to put on amounts of muscle that are not normal for your physique to handle. And especially as females transitioning into the divisions figure, physique, women's bodybuilding and things like that. That's just, that's freakish levels of conditioning, meaning how lean you get. And muscle that is not just broccoli and asparagus and chicken. Okay, let's be real. And the NPC and IFBB are not drug tested federations. So, that's obviously something that is going to be done. It's going to be done. So, speaking for myself, again, this is not advocating any which way or the other. I make my own decisions. I'm a grown-ass woman, just like all the grown-ass women out there who decide to fill their body with Botox and lip injections and booby plant implants and butt implants and tummy tucks and 2 packs of cigarettes a day and a bottle of wine a day and cocaine and meth and alcohol, whatever your vice is, okay? Mine just happens to be bodybuilding and sometimes a smattering of